So hello, everyone, and welcome to the April 23rd, 2024 regular council meeting of the Village of Lytton. I'd like to take a moment to remind everyone to please turn off your videos, mute your microphones, and allow council to begin the proceedings. Just to let you know, we're being recorded and broadcasted on the Village of Lytton YouTube channel. If anyone is looking for a video recording of this meeting or a past meeting, you can go to the Village YouTube channel and watch it there. Thank you, Your Worship. May I call the meeting to order.
Thank you. I call this meeting of the regular Village of Lytton regular council meeting, April 23rd at 7:02. So first of all, I want to recognize that we are meeting here on the unceded traditional ancestral territory of the Nlaka'an people. Here at the council table this evening, we have Councillor Michelle, Councillor Lightfoot, Councillor McCann, myself, and Councillor Toss is joining us by Zoom. We also have our corporate officer, Lisa Storoshenko here with us in person tonight. So we do have a delegation. And so we also have Sergeant Scott Clay here at the table, who will be presenting in a few moments. But first of all, we need to adopt the agenda for the council meeting tonight. Who would like to?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Councillor McCann. Seconder.
I'll second too. So you said my name.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Michelle, Councillor McCann, and all those in favor.
That's amended, right?
Carried.
Yeah, just to confirm that it is adopted as amended.
As amended.
Apologies.
That's right.
Yeah, delegation.
Yeah. Now, are you able to pin Jen so I'll be able to see her? All right, so we'll move on to item number 4, which is adoption of the minutes of the last council meeting, April the 9th. Councillor Lightfoot.
I move that the minutes be adopted as amended. And the amendment I would like to make is that under my report, at the last bullet, it's just a grammatical error, and I apologize I didn't get back. But the last sentence, she noted that the substantial debris removal, I'd like that corrected to say that she noted the substantial debris removal.
Okay, thank you. So a seconder for the amended motion.
I'll second that.
Thank you. And are there any other errors or corrections? No, all those in favor? Carried. Okay, so we'll move right on then to delegations, as we don't have anything under item number 5. So as I mentioned, we have Sergeant Clay here to give us an RCMP update. So I guess I'm just going to turn it over. So welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's great to be here in the room with you guys. This is, I think, only the second time that I've had a chance to meet in person with Lytton Council in the 3.5 years I've been in the area. Once was with the previous council and now with you guys. So I want to say this is awesome and thank you for having me here. So yeah, I'll just give a very general overview. It's been a while since I've been in a public forum to discuss the state of policing in Lytton. So things remain stable with us. We're still working as the regionalized model with the support coming out of Lillooet. But I'm happy to report that we have 4 of 5 positions, dedicated Lytton positions, filled. So pre-fire, Lytton was a 6-person post. So we're only down one position right now, and that's actually my position. So the sergeant's position is the one that remains vacant, and it will remain vacant until such time as the long-term plan for the area is established. And with that, I know there's been some discussion publicly the last little bit there, and I had a chance to talk with Madam Mayor and CAO a couple weeks ago about this. And I just want to be very clear that no plans have been made, no deviation to positions or anything have been made. Lytton still has 6 police officers funded for the community. The reason why we run that vacancy is obviously because of availability of housing, availability of infrastructure, police infrastructure in the community, and the fact that we're running with this oversight model right now out of Lillooet. No conversations have started to either decrease or enhance that. So again, nothing has started. So if you do get questions from the community, people concerned, you know, they're hearing things or they're interpreting things, you can tell them unequivocally, I said today at, 10 after 7, there is no plans, no discussions, no nothing to change anything more or less right now. And if anybody's got any questions, they can come to me directly and I will gladly walk them through the process. So we have our opening for the interim detachment on Thursday at 1 o'clock. So in attendance, we'll have senior representatives from the RCMP, both Southeast District and from headquarters in Surrey. There'll be also executive members from our non-uniform side of the operation. So our corporate management, our project management, our property management, that kind of stuff too. And I think it'll be good for them to be in the community and see what was, what is, and what's coming, because that will really help them when the time comes, start forming their decisions and recognizing who they need to engage with to make these decisions. I've been a strong advocate with them all along that when the time comes for us to have those discussions about what our footprint looks like for the next how many ever years, decades to come, that there is community consultation, straight across the board, with the village, with LFN, with Kanaka, Siska, Scuppa, Nikaman, Cooks Ferry, what this looks like for us in the area. Yeah, TNRD, thank you, Noni. But yeah, so they will be there and available for introductions, conversations. Some of them you may have met over the time at UBCM or whatever. Yeah, the acronym is that, because they do attend that too. So some of them may look familiar, but I'll make sure that they are, available for questions, discussions, that kind of stuff. So I said we have 4 or 5 positions filled right now. So that is my corporal that I had here, and Mike Phelan was here before the fire, was quite involved in the evacuation of the community. I'm happy to report he's back to work now. So Mike is my eyes and ears running the show for me on the ground day to day. And we have another member who is actually the 4th member is coming in from Alberta here in the next month or so. I think he'll be in. So experienced members, so we're not getting fresh recruits out of the factory. We're actually getting experienced members that want to come. And we've done a very active recruiting push the last little bit. We have put out Lytton on our internal RCMP national webpage. My members have put it out on the members only Facebook page. My spouses and members have put it out on the spouses only page. So we're pushing really hard and we are seeing returns on that now. We're getting a lot more phone calls saying, hey, tell me about Lytton. So I'm confident that we're going to be able to maintain stable resourcing here. Lillooet is still fully staffed, and what we've done with the staff there is we've downshifted one person to always be in the community. So like tonight, for example, because with Mike being on his days off and, one guy working days, Mike being on his days off, I've got a member from Lillooet who was here at one point. He's actually working in the community. So my guys are coming down to work in the community on their shifts. So we are seeing that on the boots on the ground policing, not just that, if you have a call, just call dispatch, call us, we'll travel down. So we changed our model a little bit to do that just because some of the feedback I got from the community was there's no police. So we're really trying to push that. As far as calls go, so for the first quarter of this year, so to March 31st, for the combined attachment area that we saw 596 calls for service. 192 of those calls were in the Lytton area. So Spence's Bridge to Jackass to Happily Little. So that is up from last year. In 2023, same period, we had 127 calls in the area. I will say, though, the difference in calls between last year and this year, we had more severe calls in 2023 in the same period that we did in 2024. The majority of the calls for service we've had have been traffic related, property related. We've had a few minor assaults or person crimes, but nothing as severe as we had during that period last year. And when we look at our year to date, so up to today, we've had 231 calls within the Lytton area, and that's up from 163 this time last year. And I attribute that to, I think, more people returning. So I'm still taking calls, and I was out last week, and I was actually up at 2 Mile, and I didn't realize the number of houses they had moved in. I was looking for an address. I'm like, what is all this? It was great to see, you know, and I've had a few conversations with Chief Nikaya and with Patrick, and I know there's a lot of development going on up there too, but it actually was really nice to see. Unfortunately, I was there because I was, assigned to a call work capacity and not just a, checking it out capacity. But that's where I think why our difference in like our increase in calls from 2023 to 2024. What we saw last year in total calls for service for 2023 for Lytton was right around 600. And that's down about 55-60% from when we were full in the community, so as much as I hate to say that we're trending back up in calls, I guess it shows that people are coming back and we're getting back to society. So that's nice. That's, take the crime out of the equation, but just the fact that, because we have people, we have stuff to go, The guys are being a lot more proactive. They're in the schools a lot more. They're out doing a lot more stuff with traffic. We have the enhanced traffic enforcement through BC Highway Patrol for all of the construction along Highway 1, where you're seeing dedicated members just for that patrol every day. Our local guys are jumping and supporting that. The other change that we've made too recently is with our Indigenous policing unit. They're pulling back from core or provincial policing a bit and focusing more on community engagement. And one of the big changes we've made is they're going into Ashcroft every 2 weeks now to the school, because the majority of the Cooks Ferry kids all go to school in Ashcroft. So we made an arrangement with the detachment commander in Ashcroft to have one of our members go in there for an hour or two every 2 weeks just to do some stuff with the school. And in return, we're getting Ashcroft is coming down a bit more and taking some of that pressure off of Spence's Bridge to Nickaman, so that our Lytton guys can focus more on this area instead. So this is just a little bit of give and take that we did there that I think is going to show us some good results. Our detachment that we have here, which you guys will be able to check out if you want on Thursday, is, I'm going to say, 95% functioning. The only thing that's not functional in the office right now is just the interview room, and that's just availability of people and availability of equipment. The wires are all pulled, everything is right there. It's just like you were saying, looking for that fixture, that plate, because it's a very specialized technical piece of equipment. There's only certain suppliers that have that, and there's only certain installers that can do it. And we're just kind of in the queue for that right now. But that's not limiting the work the guys and girls can do in the office. We do have portable setups for statements and that kind of stuff. So we're still, for all intents and purposes, that office is functioning. One of the concerns that I've heard to the community is our phone system. And yeah, we've had some issues with the phone system, and I have a remedy in place for that now. So subject to TELUS and our shared services people, by midsummer, that full upgrade will be completed, and we will be severed from Lillooet for the phones. So when a Lytton member calls a Lytton RCB phone number during business hours, a Lytton staff member, either Lillian or Nellie, will be there to answer the phone. We tried to keep it tied together, and we discovered some limitations along the way, which have caused some frustrations in the community. I totally get it. And, we met as an organization about 3 weeks ago and said, okay, this isn't working. We need to fix this. Here's a solution. Wheels are in motion for that. So with that, that's kind of my general all over the map kind of update. And I'm open to questions if anybody's got any.
Right. You had mentioned that you're funded for 5 positions or 6 positions here. So how many do we actually have? Are you short any of those positions?
Just the one.
Just one.
Just the
So
one.
there's 4.
Yeah.
There are 4 all living in Lytton now?
No, they're not all living in Lytton right now. So, and I guess I should have been a bit clear on that. So the way the Lytton office is funded is a combination of provincial and Indigenous policing through the First Nations and Inuit policing program. So the sergeant's position, the corporal's position, and 2 constables are provincially funded. And then the 2 other constables are funded by Public Safety Canada for the FNIPP, the First Nations and Inuit policing program. So right now we have we have 1 provincial constable, 1 provincial corporal, and 2 Indigenous policing constable positions built. Now, the provincial constable that we have for Lytton is currently living in Lillooet. So she's married to a Lillooet member, and when we did a little bit of that, draft day type mindset, trying to move things around. That was how we were able to get there. And that was also before we had the additional houses. So up on Loring, I've got 4 houses I own and 1 that I'm leasing. But when we moved that member into the area, we didn't have the available housing. So, it's we haven't got that one filled. Now, the next provincial constable position that we fill, the one that we're getting a lot of the calls on right now and that kind of stuff, that member will live in community. There will be, basically 1 of 2 houses for them to pick.
Yeah.
Loring, either Loring West or Loring.
Yeah.
And that is the intention there. So any members moving into into Lytton going forward will live in Lytton, not in Lillooet.
Okay.
Well, we still run this regionalized hubbed model.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No problems.
Are there any other questions?
I had one.
Councillor McCann?
I went to that online session that you coordinated a while back with 1 million other people and then lost track of it. Like, whatever happened to all that?
Thank you for bringing it up, Monica. Yeah. So the Lillooet Lytton situation table.
Thank you.
So yes, so that project is still very alive. We're actually in the final stages of that right now. So are you guys aware? Okay, so the situation table model is very, very loosely is a opportunity for frontline resources, so police, education, family services, to meet in a full information sharing session once every 2 weeks, 90 minutes, hard stop. And the partners in the table have an opportunity to bring cases forward where they think might meet the criteria. So if we have, a family that is, potentially at risk, or we're seeing risky behaviors, we can bring the situation to the table. It goes through a triage model. We determine if it meets the criteria for the table, and then if it does, we determine which is the best agency to take the lead to provide that services, support, intervention, whenever's needed. So this project is fully funded by the Office of Crime Reduction and Gang Outreach, to the Soul Gems office. So I secured $90,000 roughly for funding to get this table up and running. Working with MCFD and N7, we have completed up to bringing in our community partners now to do their session, and then the table can go live. We've had a few slowdowns along the way. One of the main architects and people that started this with me was the former CAO from Lillooet, and then he suffered. His partner passed away suddenly at like age 35 or something. So his world kind of turned upside down. And then we've had a couple other issues along the way that popped up. So we've got things back on track here about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. So my goal is to have it up and running ahead of summer.
Okay,
That's good news.
yeah. it is.
Thank you.
I kind of wondered
Are
about.
there any other questions? Councillor Lightfoot.
Just to follow up on what you've told me, because I do recall once you started speaking that Millie and I talked about it briefly several months ago. It sort of reminds me of what used to be in Lytton in the late 70s, early 80s that we called the resource group. And I've also seen a model over, I think, in Chase where interagency sharing resulted in more appropriate treatment or intervention. So, but I'm just curious, is that Lytton and Lillooet combined? Okay, so it's one big group. So it's a little more hard to manage perhaps than local.
There's definitely a lot of moving parts. And the reason why we tied it together as Lytton and Lillooet was with Carol Camille and Kate Alec of the Friendship Center. They were involved in the startup there too. And the fact that the Friendship Center ties in with Indigenous Court, Victim Services, Restorative Justice, and the two communities are so tied together with that, we felt it was the best choice was just to bring it together.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll have to have you back again for another update.
For sure, anytime. Thank you very much. And I'm going to see myself.
Okay, and we will see you on Thursday.
See you guys on Thursday.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so we'll move on to item number 7, public comment, and I'm going to turn it over to CEO Doroshenko.
Thank you. Members of the public are now invited to comment on matters related to the agenda. If you would like to speak, please use the raise hand function on Zoom. You can find that by clicking on the reactions at the bottom of your screen and then click raise hand. When it's your turn, I'll read your name and we'll ask you to unmute yourself. You'll get a pop-up and on your screen asking you to unmute. And if you do have anything that you wish to speak to, we do ask that you please state your name, the item that you're speaking to, as well as your address. So if anyone would like to speak, please use your raise hand now. I'll call for a second time. Anyone wishing to speak, please use the raise hand function now. Don't have anyone here at Parish Hall, so back to you.
Thank you. I think everybody's home watching the hockey games. All right, we'll move right on to item number 8, which is staff reports and presentations and tree program 8.8.1. CAO Member Cat.
Thank you very much, Mayor O'Connor. Good evening, everyone. And thanks everybody for being here, the folks online and I guess there isn't anybody in the village, in the parish hall with you, but this is coming back to council from the last meeting where we discussed briefly the program just in terms of a motion, but then realized there was more details to flesh out. So we've gone away and we've put together some of the parameters that could be applied to a program like this. So just as a kind of a summary, we're thinking about a program to try to encourage people to plant trees in the village. Trees have many benefits, environmental benefits. They provide shade, And, you know, they just kind of make a place a bit more aesthetically pleasing. Realizing that trees we plant right now won't likely provide a lot of shade this summer, but they will provide shade in the future, and maybe a little bit of shade for this year for a small dog or something. But you know, really it's like they say, it's, you know, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. So what we've done for parameters for this program is just kind of look at a couple of simple items. So, you know, the idea is a person would buy the tree, they could either bring their receipt to the village office, or they could send it to us, scan it, fax it, whatever works. And we would then, you know, be in contact with them about how to make the reimbursement. You know, the trees would be planted in Lytton on a property that was affected by the fire. So it's intended to, you know, try to replace some of the trees that were lost. You know, the lot would have to have a water connection so that the tree could be watered and be successful. And the planting would occur by December 31st, 2024. So again, just trying to kind of put some limits on some of these programs. So we have, number one, we encourage some action, but number two, they kind of line up with the funding, the various funding sources that we have. And then the trees should be a fire resilient variety, which is kind of goes without saying. And there's a number that would qualify. I just listed a couple in the report as examples: Japanese maple, some fruit trees, and ornamental crabapple. So there's a whole list of trees that could be considered fire resilient there. So the funding for this, we would recommend come from the donations that were received after the fire from individual folks looking to support the rebuild of Lytton. So I think that's all my comments with respect to that, unless somebody has some questions.
Okay, so we have a recommended motion. Let's put that forward. Councillor Lightfoot.
I'll move that council authorize staff to reimburse property owners in Lytton up to $100 for the purchase of a tree or trees based on the program criteria below, with funding to come from the donations.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor McCann. So now, are there any comments or questions? Councillor Toss.
Just thanking staff so much for putting the details together on that, and just I'm speaking obviously strongly in favor of it for all of the reasons that CAO Montburquette alluded to: climate change, shade, privacy, sequestering and holding water, habitat for animals, aesthetics, takes away from this moonscape that we have in the village, and trees and fauna can actually be a fire retardant if irrigated properly. And I think with fruit trees, there's an element of food security, which is also increasingly important, and a dust filter, which having been in the village this weekend with construction all around me, I think for the next decade it'll be super relevant. And and something I just I heard from a farmer, I don't know if I mentioned this, but that the topsoil, pardon me, the fill that's been put in there is actually conducive to growing because it aerates the roots, which surprised me, but I do trust that individual. So that was reassuring for perhaps getting some trees back in the village. And just an extension on that, again, thank you. But I'm hoping that adding on to this for private homeowners, we can maybe do something for the village as well. So like in some of the places that we know we're not going to be developing, that we can look at maybe getting some trees in this year. Thanks.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, so we move on to number item 8.1.2, which is CFO around credit card authorization. And Diane, did you want to speak to this as well? Or shall we?
Yeah, there's not really much to say. We need to replace the credit card that we had from the previous CFO to have one in my name so that we can pay for purchases that can only be paid for by credit card. Sometimes we order things must be prepaid before they'll ship and those types of things. So it has limited use, but when we need it, we really need it. And so the bank requires a resolution from council in order to order that card.
Great. I'm looking for someone to move the recommended motion. Councillor Lightfoot, seconder.
I'll second.
Councillor Toss. Any comments or questions regarding this?
I was
And
wondering,
all the- Oh, yes, Councillor Toss?
just curious, what have we been using then if we haven't had a credit card? We're just how
we-
purchases we made.
We still have been using the card that we had.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, all those in favor?
Hi.
Carried. And right now we'll move on to recovery manager report, backfill testing zone 7. And I believe we have Dawn on the call here.
Hi all,
There we are.
and I apologize, I don't have the agenda in front of me. Can you just confirm? Is the first, I have 2 reports. The first one you want is the structural one?
So the first one, we have a motion, and I'll make the motion and I'll read it out so you can hear it. That
Sure.
council authorized staff to issue a change order to Ecora Engineering and Resource Group Limited for $2,800 plus taxes to complete geotechnical structural engineering inspections to allow for rebuilding. Can I have a seconder, please?
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Michelle. Now, we'll hear what you have to say about that, Dawn.
Sure, thank you, Mayor. During the remediation work in the village in 2022-23, a number of rock walls were removed. In some cases, these walls were landscape features, but in other cases, these walls were actually structural walls. When zones 1 to 6 were backfilled, a decision was made to level the backfill by buffering properties with a 45-degree angle of backfill, right? We've met with some of the owners that are intimated that they're rebuilding this year and talked about the 45-degree angle back wall and being not sufficient for them. They've advised us that it takes up a lot of space and has kind of limited the rebuild. The 3 groups of addresses that we've spoken with, these include 220 West Lane, where they previously had tiers in the backyard that have been turned into fill, 256 Third that used to have a 10-foot rock wall behind it, as well as down below them at 379, 339, 319 Main that had a retaining wall, a structural rock wall that separated them from the above homes. In order to figure out what we're going to do, we'd like to get authorization from council for the change order to Ecora for $2,900 to give us some geotechnical structural engineering inspections to help us rebuild.
Okay,
Thank
thank you. Are there any comments or questions regarding this? Councillor Lightfoot?
It seems like work that's necessary to be done, but second from the bottom, the structural review of interior health, I don't know what CIP stands for, retaining wall. I'm really curious because when Interior Health built that facility, they removed a lot of backfill, and so I would assume that they had an engineer design that.
So
Where is that?
Maybe I'm on the wrong one. I'm on the 2800.
Should be on page 13. The structure.
If I could clarify, Councillor Lightfoot,
Right.
that was a separate report that was done out previously, and that was pertaining to the impact of the fire on the structural walls of Interior Health. And part of that was for us to look at some public works things. That one's ongoing. The properties specifically that we're talking about, like from 220 West Lane and such, these are folks, residential properties primarily, folks that want to rebuild. And we just want to just basically give them the ability to do that. They're very limited.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that explanation. Okay, are there any other comments or questions regarding this? No, see none. All those in favor of this motion?
Yeah.
Carried. So Dawn, the second one, and who would like to read this motion? Item number 8.3.2. Noni?
Yeah.
Or sorry, Councillor McCann.
I will move that council authorize staff to issue a change order to Ecora Engineering and Resource Group Limited for $8,590 plus taxes to complete the geotechnical review and proctor testing to prepare zone 7, and non-applicable other properties for backfilling.
And a seconder, Councillor Lightfoot. So Dawn, would you like to speak to this one? No, maybe not.
You're muted, Don.
Ah,
Maybe he went away.
okay. Dawn is muted. And I'm not sure.
Hi, sorry about that.
Oh, there he is. Okay.
My phone just went a little wacky.
So did you hear
Yeah.
that we just put forward the second motion?
So this one talks about testing that was already done, is that correct? Am I reading on that or am I reading wrong?
But do you have any report to make on that, Dawn?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
Am I still there? I'm sorry, the connection just phased out.
We can hear you
So-
now, Dawn.
Okay. So for zone 7, there's specific issues that a number of unique properties that we're backfilling which switch to site-by-site basis. Right? In order for us to begin the preparation for this work, we'd like to permission from council to give the change order to Cora to provide the initial geotechnical and proctoring resources to allow us to begin this, to start planning for the backfill. To be clear, we've switched to the site by site, which means that we won't be going forward with anything until we have council as well as direct owners approvals. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any comments or questions? Councillor Lightfoot?
I guess my comment is that I was really pleased to see that no works will be done by the village without prior approvals and consultations. I think we'll have a better end result. I appreciate staff taking the time to individualize the response we're anticipating.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? All those in favor of this motion? Carried. Okay, thank
Thank
you,
you.
Dawn, for that. Now we'll move on to item number 8.4, which is Director of Development, and we will be discussing a temporary use permit application. And I'm going to, what we'll do though is we will put the recommended motion forward as written here in the report. So who would like to make that, or in the agenda, who would like to make that motion?
I will move the motion as written.
Yes. Yeah, and seconder?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Michelle. Now, we have Berthe here who will make a presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I think I'm having some challenges, isn't it? It's not the first time today. Bear with me a second here.
We can see your,
Can
we
you,
can
can
see
you see
your
my
presentation.
presentation?
yes, we
Okay.
can.
I can't, that's the problem. Just let me, there we go, there we go. Okay, hold on.
No, we can't see it, but you can.
I still can't see it. Okay. I'm so sorry. Boy, I've had luck with you guys today, haven't I? So it's wanting me to leave the meeting, so I'll just start over again. And I am going to. Okay. What about now?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Except for my mouse isn't working now. Just bear with me another moment. Excellent. We have a screen. I'm sorry, you guys, I'm everything's flashing for me right now here, so just bear with me a moment. Have you got the council presentation without any writing around it? Does it work for you?
No, it's not. It's showing the,
Okay.
Yeah, you need to put slideshow.
yeah,
Yeah.
on
I'm hitting it
slideshow.
over and over again, and it's not working. Okay. You know, I thought I'd use technology properly, so I'm going to unplug and I'm just going to wing it. How's that? So you've got the
You do it
presentation in
from
front of you
there?
now?
Yes,
Excellent.
now it's working.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you know, I'm Beerton DeClue. I'm part of the Village of Lytton planning team. Tonight, we're asking you to consider TUP 2024-01. Okay, so the TUP 2024-01 is for the property located at 1120 North Trans-Canada Highway. The objective is to build a temporary housing complex containing 90 to 100 private rooms with en suites, recreation cooking facilities and rooms, administrative services, security, first aid station, and a bus for workers to move between the sites. The property is located in the northeast region of Lytton, and it's a site that we've seen several times before. The reason that we require a temporary use permit for this site is because the property is zoned CRM, Comprehensive Mixed Use. Now, the Comprehensive Mixed Use site does allow for multiple dwelling units. However, the word dwelling units has a definition, and the definition indicates that for it to be a dwelling unit, it must contain a kitchen. So the proposal does provide sleeping rooms, but they don't have kitchen facilities. The kitchen facilities are communal with some of the other spaces involved. I'm hoping this slide's going to work. The site, as you know, has multiple uses. One is a concrete batch plant, and it's located approximately where I put the words. The other one is a highway repair staging area. Now, this particular project did not come to you as a TUP because their uses were permitted in the zone. And then finally, tonight, we're talking about the workforce lodge for housing for workers. Staff support this for several reasons. Obviously, housing is necessary to rebuild Lytton and many of the infrastructure projects in the area. The site that is proposed for is very large, and we're not expecting any conflicts between the uses. The Ministry of Transportation has provided comment. I'm sorry, your report says otherwise, and they don't have any concerns apart from requiring an access permit. We're asking you to issue a TUP for 3 years with an opportunity to extend for another 3 years from the date of council. There are several conditions that are included in the draft TUP that you have in your package. And I'm just going to touch on a few of them very lightly because I just want to give you some assurances. Obviously, the first is the development and operation need to meet the industrial camp regulations that are applicable throughout the province. It is an expectation that dust suppression will be used on regular intervals. All waste management facilities will be designed to minimize potential wildlife conflicts. We don't want bears and other animals roaming the site. The use is permitted only for temporary worker accommodations and their associated facilities, nothing else. No permanent structures are anticipated to be erected as part of this temporary use permit. And finally, once the temporary use permit is, the use is done, the temporary use permit expires, it is expected that the property is reverted back to the uses permitted under the zoning bylaw of the day. There are other things that as staff we're a little bit concerned about. One of them is, as you know, this land used to be for an airstrip, and there is a covenant for an airstrip. The covenant says no portions of the land shall be used for any other purpose except for as an aircraft runway. My concern around this, or our concern around this, is the temporary worker accommodations are anticipated to be located at the end of the runway. And I think for everyone's sake that this particular covenant should be dismissed, just to remove any concerns that the land, who knows, may be used as a runway sometime. Some of the other things that we thought that you might want to address that may be an impact from the use is to very explicitly spell out that all buildings and structures and vehicles must be removed when the temporary use permit expires, that the proponent can reinstate and rehabilitate the site in a clean condition, again, at expiration, and maybe suggest that they provide some buffering of landscaping, screening, or fencing where appropriate to minimize noise impacts to the accommodations and or ensure health and fire regulations are met due to the proximity of industrial uses. It will be up to you as council to decide whether you wish to add any of these to the TUP. That concludes my comments, and I'm open if you have any questions.
Thank you, Bertie, for that presentation. I'm just wondering, were there any was there any correspondence received from the public on this?
No, there was nothing received. Yeah.
Okay. Questions, comments from council?
Should we put the motion on the table, Mayor O'Connor?
We have done that
Oh,
already.
you did that? Sorry. I do have a comment.
Councillor Lightfoot.
Well, when I read through the comments, there were some comments from BC Hydro, and I'm not exactly sure what they're meaning. But building permits will not, they're concerned that building permits not get issued that allow for encroachment of buildings into the safety clearance zones around utility conductors. So I don't know the details of that, but I imagine those are details that the planning department.
Bertie, if you'd like to respond to that.
I can speak to that, and just for your information, the proponent for this application is online as well, in case we have any questions we can answer. BC Hydro, in fact, all the power providers recently, I believe it was last July, changed the regulations, and they have a limiting distance from power lines depending on the level of power line. So for instance, on a local street where we have a power line, you have to be 3 meters away. If it is a high power line, the distance is further, and I believe that is what's being referred to. It is something that all power providers are commonly mentioning in all comments for all types of projects.
Thank you. Councillor Lightfoot.
Another comment from Interior Health was stating that they needed to know what the plan was for potable water. And I know that myself, I was curious how they see accommodating this issue.
Thank you, Your Worship. If we could go to the proponent for that answer, I think he'd be able to better speak to it than I could, if you don't mind.
I'm not sure if he wants to speak to it.
Is he maybe muted?
Nope, not muted.
Any luck there?
There we are.
There's a voice.
Okay. Sorry, it's one of those Tuesdays, hey? Yeah, so thanks again for having me here. Yeah, we'd be looking to drill a well, and we'll be bringing in a potable water treatment plant at that site.
Ah,
Okay. Cool. Good.
and will that have to leave when you leave, or will it be able to stay behind after the?
That can stay, certainly.
So
Okay, and Councillor Lightfoot. Sorry. Councillor.
the greatest, I just want to clarify, he said they were going to put in a well?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
and if it comes up dry, they'll try somewhere else again?
That's up to them, I guess. Okay, Councillor Toss, your hand is up. Yes, you have a
Thank
question?
you. I appreciate Councillor Lightfoot's questions there on the water. And I suppose without, if for example, if the water did come up dry, or if the well came up dry, then that would be like the development would be contingent on having a water supply, or maybe the proponent can answer, would they just go to tanked water, or would that stop the development?
No, if we had to go to tanked water, we would.
Okay.
We've had preliminary reviews with hydrogeologists and our water engineers, and they're feeling pretty confident. But guess we'll
Okay.
see.
Great. I'm speaking in support of this project. I do wonder, maybe Birta can answer this, in regards to returning to the original state, what kind of checks and balances can be put in place for that? That's like, is that put right into the temporary use permit, obviously, but is there something that ensures that gets done? What kind of teeth does that have? Or how like, what kind of recourse does the village have if that doesn't happen?
Thank you. At this point in time, the village doesn't have a program for any type of bonding. Many other jurisdictions would take a bond of some sort, and that would be the teeth for lack of a better word. One of the things is it should be put in the temporary use permit wording just to make sure that it's very, very clear. And I'm not certain if the village could then have some legal or some other recourse. I know at that point it becomes rather problematic. So one of the intents for us as planning staff were to make sure that it's very clear right from the get-go, so that the expectations of the village and what happens to the site after are spelled out for both you and for the proponent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Birta, you had, in your slide presentation, you had a list of recommendations. And I think you said that if council agreed to them or approved them or felt they were important. So what does that process look like this evening?
The corporate officer probably could speak to it better than I can. Yeah.
When you read them, they all made total sense to me. You know, when we saw them. Are you able to?
In the report. Oh, I'm sorry. They're in the report.
Yeah.
And my understanding, and Lisa or the corporate officer could speak to that better, is that you would have to make your recommendation to include those items as stated, and they are on the last page of the report.
Yes, that's right. Okay, so as an amend the motion. Yeah. Okay. So I would speak in favor of that. Councillor Toss?
I would speak strongly in favor of, if you're speaking of removing the covenant, I'm speaking strongly in favor of leaving it on. These are temporary use permits for 3 years, and they'll be renewed for a possible additional 3 years maximum. So in 6 years' time, the proponent will either have to rezone or get essentially all evidence of there having been a housing project there gone. And at that point, it's going to be very important for the security and the longevity of the community to have an airstrip, and it's a safety concern. So I'm speaking strongly against removing the covenant.
Okay.
Or amending the motion. Thank you.
Not sure if it's our Wi-Fi here or somewhere else. It's choppy tonight. Yeah.
May I say one more thing, Mayor O'Connor? Maybe if we split it into 2 motions, we don't risk throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and we can discuss the covenant as a separate issue from this motion if you wish to table it.
So we'll take the advice from corporate officer on that. So if we put the motion we have on the table forward and then make a new motion. Okay. Yeah. So if there's no other comments or questions regarding this motion, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Sorry, Councillor Light, but
I'm sorry, I'm a little bit confused because I'm not sure if this motion, the motion we have on the table is the one that's on our agenda, correct?
yes, yeah, yes.
Does that include removal of the
No.
covenant on the airstrip?
No,
Oh, that's an amendment.
okay, that's an amendment.
Okay,
We will make a second motion regarding those.
just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. Okay, so all those in favor of this motion?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, so now we're looking at a new motion that will include the recommendations that were put forward. And we need some help.
Yeah, Birta, can you bring those up again?
I certainly can. They're also, like I said, they're on the second page of the council report.
19, yeah, okay.
But I will bring them up on the screen for you to see. Just give me one moment. Here they are.
Yeah, there they are.
Okay. There they are, screen.
So there's two different things to do there.
The one is regarding the covenant, and then the other is other terms and conditions.
I did that on purpose for your ease.
Thank you.
Right.
It's two different things.
Okay, so why don't we have a motion put forward regarding the covenant,
To dismiss the covenant.
to dismiss the covenant? Who would like to make that motion then?
Nobody?
I'm looking, nobody?
Nobody wants to move it.
Nobody wants to move it? Okay, so we will leave it as is. And let's move on to number 2. To a motion to include the terms and conditions, those 4 terms and conditions as listed.
Yeah.
Who would like to make that motion?
I will so move. Can you word that for us?
Move that council. Yeah, I can move that council consider the terms and conditions, and then we'll list them up for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so all of those.
Be added to the
Yeah.
Temporary use permit.
Yeah.
As numbered. Yeah.
Okay, and a seconder for that, Councillor Lightfoot. Comments or questions regarding those recommendations or regarding this? Councillor Lightfoot.
I'm not sure if I'm on topic or if I'm dancing around it a bit, but when I look at the Lytton Lodge site layout, and I see they have a picture of 3 strips of buildings right now and an expansion of 3 strips of buildings. Where I see that their proposed expansion in the future, should they have that need, is it's all off the covenant area. It's actually
It's at the end of it.
well, if you look at it, they're expanded areas.
Slide down to the next.
This is
page.
where the
No, but slide down to the next page. There's an area. And it's
But-
at the end. That's all it said.
but their expansion area that they say these next 3 units or whatever
Mhm.
are actually off of the airstrip.
Right. So they wouldn't apply to.
So I think that it could conceivably be constructed without being on the airstrip. As I said, I'm not sure that this is
But this is,
Thick.
but
No, that's
yeah,
not
no,
right.
I think what we're doing is we are
We're
looking at the plans as they presented, right?
Yeah.
As presented.
Those
So,
4 bullets.
yeah, so just those 4 bullets.
Yeah.
So are there
And
any,
the only thing that I was thinking about that we maybe don't have included was what Birta suggested as a motivational tool to make sure this happens. What did you call that? A bond or something? Yeah. So I don't know if we want to include that with this, but that's where it would go, I would think that
Yeah.
Jennifer or Councillor Tosses.
Councillor Toss?
Probably she's got a better way of saying that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that Councillor McCann in that, like, I would speak against the second point here, just in so far as that we don't have, any sort of recourse should these conditions not be met. So why put them in place? If there was a bonding, like you're suggesting, Councillor McCann, then I can see but what would that be? $5,000, $50,000? I don't know. And I think at this point we have to, I look at these 4 bullets and they're kind of givens in the temporary use permit, that's inherent in the temporary use permit, is it not, Birta, that all buildings and structures and vehicles are removed? Is that an addition to what's already in the temporary use permit? My understanding is it's inherent in it.
Birta?
We do have some wording, thank you, your worship. We do have some wording that buildings or temporary situations are removed. We put this in specifically because we wanted to, 1, bring it to your attention, and 2, experiences of other jurisdictions with temporary use permits, that sometimes things get left behind, and we wanted to be a little bit more explicit about it rather than use some of the standard wording in a temporary use permit.
So if I may, I don't know if this is unorthodox, but would the proponent have some recommendations on that, or how both parties could be comfortable with, you know, in 3 years or 6 years time, everything being removed? Like, I'm not comfortable in putting a random dollar amount, because I almost feel like it's just the cost of doing business for some larger corporations. So maybe hearing from the proponent would help.
Yeah, certainly. No, it is quite common in past TUPs to have just this provision. Bonding is one capacity. I think we could probably do, in the past, we've done a letter of assurance. I know it doesn't have a monetary value to it, but it's something there. Beyond our word and promise to you, that's kind of about you, unless the bonding capacity is in place. But
Thank you. So I might recommend that a letter of assurance be put into place, as there's, it doesn't seem like a monetary provisions like appropriate right now.
Thank you, Councillor Toss.
Thank you.
Are there other comments or questions regarding that?
That would work for me.
Yeah, so are you looking at, we have the motion put forward, and you're looking at amending it then to add in a letter of insurance?
Not to add in.
Sorry.
As far as where I'm sitting, I would not ask for any of these things, because we have no way of enforcing them. And I would just ask for a letter of assurance that the items would be.
So we have a motion on the floor, then. We have a motion on the floor.
So I'm not going
around
to
considering these four terms and conditions. So if there are no other questions or comments, I will
call the question.
Call for the question. So all those in favor of these terms and conditions? And opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so carried.
I can't see the screen, so I don't know who voted in favor or who voted against.
Okay, so all four here voted in favor.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, okay. We can remove the presentation. Hopefully that will help.
Yeah, thank you so much.
The screen again. Okay, thank you so much. Okay.
Well, we didn't have the letter of assurance in that motion, so I would suggest that we put a motion then forward to ask for a letter of assurance from the proponent.
Okay, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Lightfoot. Any other comments or questions regarding that? All those in favor?
Oh, Berta has a comment, and so does.
Yeah, Berta, sorry.
If you don't mind, Your Worship, a lot of jurisdictions would put that the letter of assurance is provided prior to the issuance of the TUP. So as you know, tonight you get to make the decision whether the TUP moves forward. The TUP is then signed and issued afterwards, and that's signed and issued generally by the corporate officer or the COA. And so other jurisdictions that I've worked in before have indicated that they'd like to have a letter of assurance before they sign the TUP. I mean, it just ensures that from a paperwork perspective, everything works in the right order.
Thank you. So just so I understand it, we have put a motion forward that we have approved the TUP. We're having a motion forward now regarding a letter of assurance. I keep getting the words mixed up. That will then come back to the next council meeting.
That's, if I may, if that's the case, I would withdraw that motion. My understanding was that it could be put forward now. Berta, is it something we could ask of the proponent, even though it is post TUP signing? I understand it's usually a preliminary step.
Diane, do you want me to speak to it, or do you want to speak to it?
You go ahead, Berta. Go ahead.
So the wording then might be that prior to the issuance of the TUP, which is different than the approval of the TUP, the letter of assurance has to be received from the applicant.
That sounds reasonable.
So you're approving the TUP, the actual physical, like the copy that you have in here, that gets issued afterwards. So you would just set a thing in motion that the letter of assurance from the applicant needs to be in place before the TUP can be issued.
And would that delay the issue past, like, I'm assuming that this letter of assurance could be done in a couple days from the proponent. It's not going to delay it significantly. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. That sounds good. All right, any other comments, questions? All those in favor?
Thanks for clarifying that.
Carried. Yes, thank you for that. All right.
Sorry. Yeah, she moved it.
Okay, so now
And what about the other half of it?
we have.
Your covenant just.
We just,
Nobody. It didn't move forward. So, okay. All right. Thank you very much, Berta, for that. Now we're going to move on to the financial plan. Sorry, no, we're not. We are moving on to, I am mixed up here. Bylaws, yes, no, we're moving on to the annual tax rate bylaw. So we have a motion to put forward. Who would like to make that motion? Councillor Lightfoot.
I move that council consider giving first three readings to the 2024 annual tax rate bylaw number 749, 2024.
And a seconder.
I'll second.
Thank you. And I'm going to turn it over to CEO Mombercat.
Thank you very much, Mayor O'Connor. I do have a short presentation. I just wanted to highlight a couple of important points about this year's tax rates. So CEO Poroshenko, if you can get that up for me.
No, I've got.
We are getting it set up here.
I can start making a couple comments while we get there. Oh, there we go. Okay, so the
It's being written.
Is it showing up for you, Diane?
I don't see it in the slideshow, but I'm just seeing the
Oh.
but I can see it. It doesn't look like a slideshow to me though.
Oh,
There it is.
Okay, we can
That's
see
right.
it as a slideshow.
oh, it's right now.
That's a-
Okay.
That's it now. So on to the first one, Lisa. So please. So as we know, the community charter requires council to approve first a 5-year financial plan, then followed by the tax rates for the current year, no later than May the 15th. And so this is our budget timeline that we've worked through this year. I'm very happy to say we're near the bottom of it. But we have had several discussions about the tax rates and the financial plan, a number of opportunities to get feedback from the public on it. And at the last council meeting, we gave the first 3 readings to the 5-year plan. It's next on the agenda for adoption. And this is the first 3 readings of the tax rate bylaw. We, after this meeting, we have one of those 3-week breaks until the next meeting. So just the way that the calendar falls. So we won't adopt this until May the 14th. But that's fine. It just needs to be done before May the 15th. So that will work. Next slide, please, Lisa. So this is just a comparison of the 2024 and 2023 numbers. So we have talked about this before. It highlights the fairly significant increase in the assessed values of the properties. So you'll see in the first column there is the 2024 assessment. This is the final tax roll from BC Assessment compared to the third column over the 2023 assessment. And as we've again spoken before, we adjust the tax rate so that we don't have an unsustainable tax increase for property owners. If we had kept the tax rate the same, the tax bill for people would have went up in the area of 40%, which is more than people would be expecting and probably much more than people can bear. So further to our earlier council meeting where staff was directed to prepare a plan with a 6% increase, these rates reflect that direction. The second line item, utilities, there is a stipulation in the community charter that the utilities can only be charged a maximum of $40 as a tax rate, and that's typically where municipalities go. They just go straight to the 40 and then distribute the taxes across the other rates accordingly. On to the next one, please, Lisa.
Excuse me, CO Mombercat, I'd
Yes.
just like to check, we're finding it very choppy here, and I don't know if it's just our
Oh.
Wi-Fi. I'd like to ask Councillor Toss, is it very choppy? Is that what you're hearing as well?
I hear CAO Mombercat fine.
Toss. All right, so yeah, please continue.
Okay, I prepared this slide just to demonstrate the total tax rate for residents, because as we know, there's a couple of different components to the tax rate. One is the municipal rate, which we have control over and we set. And then the others is the taxes that we collect on behalf of others. And so the combination of the two rates together is the tax rate that we will then issue tax bills and collect from the residents, and then we turn around and remit the portions to the other jurisdictions. So you can see on the, like, for example, in the residential class, the municipal tax rate is 3.5261, and then we collect 3.3667 on behalf of others. And the reason why that's relevant is just for council to keep in mind when we're setting our tax rate, that there's other tax rates as well that are getting levied on our property owners. And the total has to just be, we have to be careful that number is something that people are able to afford. So this just sort of shows the different rates that will be charged. These will be the rates on the tax bills. Next slide. And then the final comment I wanted to make was just with respect to the level of tax that we are collecting on behalf of others this year. We've seen a fairly significant increase over what we have collected in previous years. And this just shows these are the actual dollar amounts that we're going to collect for the various organizations. So in 2023, we collected a total of $90,000, which we then turned around and dispersed to other organizations. This year, that number is 161,000. So it's a fairly significant increase that our property owners are going to be paying, that we'll then turn around and hand over. In many respects, the reason, excuse me, the reason for that is that the organizations, excuse me one second. Many of these organizations give us a rate that we apply to the assessed value. And in I think 3 of the 4 cases, the rate didn't go down from previous years. So because the assessed value has gone up, they've gotten that additional amount collected for them. That's created a lot of this increase. In addition to that, both the TNRD and the TNRH numbers went up from previous years. So just pointing that out because it's something to keep in mind when people do receive their tax bills, they will see a fairly significant increase. And it's primarily because of the taxes that we collect on behalf of others. And those are all the comments that I wanted to make. So that's all I was going to say. If you heard any of it or some of it, but I could take any questions.
Thank you for that. Are there any comments or questions, Councillor Lightfoot?
I mean, unfortunately, our connection is really choppy, and a lot of what you just said, Diane, was not heard. But of all those increases of the outside agency, I guess the one that I'm quite surprised about is the school tax has gone from, we collected 41,000 last year, but we're expected to forward $98,000 this year. And that just seems like more than double. How can that be justified?
Because BC Assessment doubled their property values. Mine went from 30,000 to 60,000.
Yeah.
But if you look at all those other agencies.
But those Councillor, sorry, CIO Mombercat, do you have a response to that?
Well, it is, as Councillor Michelle says, that the school district just sets a rate. And so when the assessed value goes up and the rate doesn't go down, it ends up that we collect a lot more on their behalf.
Councillor.
Just when I looked at the other agencies, there was maybe a $2,000 or $3,000 increase from 12,000 to 14,000. The school district jumps out because it, like I said, it's more than double. It goes from 41 to 98,000, and it's just inexplicable given that we have a school that is barely staffed. I'm sorry. I just think a lot of citizens will be quite dismayed when they understand this situation.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? All those in favor of giving us the three readings, and carried. All right, so we'll move on to bylaws, financial plan. CIO Mombercat.
I think we've talked about the financial plan enough. I don't have any more comments on it.
Okay, that's fine. We'll put the motion forward. Who would like to make the motion? Councillor McCann.
That council adopt financial plan 2024 to 2028, bylaw number 748, 2024.
Thank you. And seconder, Councillor Lightfoot. And you're right, we have seen this many times, but we do have a comment. Councillor Toss.
Oh, no, I wasn't on my thing.
Okay, you're frozen with your hand up. That's fine.
Oh, no.
Okay, so all those in favor?
Yes.
Carried. All right, so we'll move on to item number 10, which is correspondence. And we did receive 2 items for information, and I'd like to have a motion to accept both of these for information.
So moved.
Thank you. And a seconder.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Michelle. And if there are no comments or questions regarding these,
I do have a
all
comment.
those in favor. Oh, sorry, Councillor McCann, you're frozen without your hand up. So sorry, Councillor Toss.
Toss, that's all right. Just following up
Go
on
ahead.
the tiny homes correspondence and hoping that council at some point we can get a report from staff to maybe follow up on what the implications of allowing tiny homes in the village might be. So now you're frozen. I'm not sure if you can hear me, but
I can hear you though.
you can hear me. Well, that's good.
Yes.
So
Pictures
maybe in the future when things have settled a little bit and staff has the time, we can look into that a bit more. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, if there's no other, Councillor Lightfoot.
I believe that the
Uh-oh, we're frozen again.
tiny homes could be added to that information database.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, but we
Okay.
didn't, I'm not sure if CAO Mombercat heard that or anybody else on Zoom, but I didn't hear a word of what
Okay,
Councillor Lightfoot
so
said.
we will
Can you hear me? Because I'll put something in the chat here. I did not hear anything from Councillor Lightfoot.
I didn't
yes,
either.
we can. We can hear you both.
But they couldn't hear
You
us.
can't hear us.
I just heard that,
That's
but
okay.
I didn't
We
hear
will.
Councillor
This is-
Lightfoot at all.
All right, so verbal reports. We are still recording, yes. So I'm going to give mayor's report. So as usual, a very busy 2 weeks since the last council meeting. The constructions of the homes in the village attracted media, and on April the 11th, CFJC came to do a story on the rebuilding. Their footage was picked up by Global TV. I always appreciate that coverage showing that Village of Lytton is moving ahead. On Saturday, the 13th, I attended the Kanakabar Cultural Day event along with CAO Mombercat. So nice to see friends there and of course to introduce our CAO to many of our communities in the area. So it was good to take her up there. April 15th, Monday Coffee was at the village office. It was a full turnout. It was nice to see MLA Jackie Taggart's constituency office assistant, Lori Pilon, there with the team that's working on the Fraser Canyon Gateway signage project. It's going to sure be nice to see that gateway sign put up on the highway soon, we hope. There's that soon word. On Tuesday, the 16th, I attended an IHA Zoom meeting with other local elected leaders. The highlight there was to hear that IHA plans to rebuild a permanent facility back in the village. So that was good news to hear. They also announced, and I see it went out public today, that there's going to be a meeting on April the 30th for community consultation. And I believe it's out at the Stein Valley School gym, or is it at Battlefield Hall? One of the two.
The school.
It's at the school. So unfortunately, council will not be at that meeting, as we will be at Silga. But please, I encourage community to attend that. I attended 2 days of TNRD meetings at the end of last week. Yesterday morning was coffee here at the hall. Again, another great turnout. And just before I finish and pass it on, I want to recognize that last week was National Volunteer Week. And I'd be remiss to not mention that the appreciation we have for the volunteers in and around our community. I can't name them all, but everything, everyone from those volunteers who organize special events, youth activities, and, groups such as the Legion, the Museum Committee, the Volunteer Fire and Rescue, of course. Even people outside our community who volunteer to raise funds for us or provide donations. There's just too many to mention. But please, as volunteers, please know that you are all recognized and greatly appreciated. I will now turn it over to Councillor Toss.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. Busy couple weeks. Several people from council, Councillor McCann and myself, Brian Baxter, Kathy Walters, and Morgan Heaster from the village attended the EOC course at the Parish Hall on the 11th and 12th of April, and I'm happy to report we all passed. And that was a great community sort of gathering as well, because there was people from all different factions around the Lytton community, the TNRD, Lytton First Nations, several First Nations. It was really interesting day. And I'm excited that that sort of information in our new position with our Jim McLeod fellow that's going to come in and work on some of that emergency planning, that's really starting to come together. I attended the chamber as the council designate, I guess, the liaison on the 17th. And it's so great to have to attend those, but also to have Lytton First Nation members on the chamber, because I hear a lot about what Lytton First Nation is doing through those meetings. And I was excited to hear there's a 1-acre storage facility that Lytton ECDEB is planning for this area, which is great. And as Mayor O'Connor mentioned, the Interior Health consultation on the 16th was great insofar as that they did confirm that the site in town will be used. So that was great. And then having heard from Sergeant Clay there that the RCMP, that no decisions have been made about not having it in the village, is also exciting, because I'm hoping that both the health building and the RCMP return to the village. The chamber was a little concerned about how fast several of the businesses were coming back in the commercial hub, and really looking at mapping out what that looks like with something physical and those core businesses, and really encouraging them, and a lot of concern around the food store coming back and and how that's in process. I tried to reassure them that it is coming, but I'm not exactly sure what stage it's at. So and then they also had some concerns around Pacifican and the funding around that. So it's not funding so much as like the cooperators' involvement in funding that, and the implications of how much that cost a person to get that funding, which it does not sound like a good deal, let's say. And so there's concerns around the rollout of Pacifican. That's from the chamber. Other than that, I'm looking forward to going to Port Moody with Mayor O'Connor and Councillor McCann tomorrow, I think, to pick up a fire truck. Yeah. Thank you very much. And thank you to staff as always.
Thank you, Councillor Toss. Councillor McCann.
I got a lengthy report, but I'll do as much as I can quickly. I attended a number of events, some with other council members. I'll just highlight the ones that are different. On April 12th, there was a group that met with AEW to do a walkabout on this Chief Spintlam Park project here. And that was with AEW so that project can continue to move ahead on understanding the archaeological requirements that they will have to meet. I went to the coffee things in Kanaka Bar, Interior Health. I attended the Kumsheen Heritage Committee meetings for the last couple of weeks. On the 17th, I went to the Fire Smart meeting with Councillor Lightfoot at the wildfire base. And on the 18th, I went to the Indigenous and Community Business Info session at the Parish Hall, as well as attending the training session with EOC with Councillor Toss. I found the EOC training to be engaging, relevant, and useful for everyone who took part. I look forward to being a part of further development of our village EOC. There was a lot of things that we kind of looked at each other and said, well, we could have known this beforehand, it might have helped. The Business Opportunities Workshop that was held on the 18th was well attended, and it fostered some lively discussions about our community's business potential. And I particularly appreciated the Indigenous flavor of the presentations. I went expecting a Pacific Can presentation similar to what we had seen, and it was not that. It was not that. That was a tiny piece of the whole day. So it was quite well done. I really appreciated that. I want to also say that I appreciate the hard work of the village staff, having been directly benefiting from their assistance in recent weeks. In particular, our CFO Diane, for her work on the tax and budget bylaws and for making the most of her time in our community. Brian Baxter's efforts to facilitate the EOC training were above and beyond. And Joanne at the village office has pitched in to assist in the organization and planning of this Friday's recognition of retired volunteer fire rescue members, Jason Phillips, Alice Monroe, Eddie Toms, and Denise McIntyre. I thank you all for your continued dedication to our village. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Councillor Michelle.
I have nothing additional to add.
I'm not going to let you get away with not at least saying that. Thank you. Councillor Lightfoot.
It's hard to follow these active, busy bees, but as Councillor McCann said, I did attend some of the similar meetings. The coffee at the mill was a good day, especially since our CAO was there to meet with some of the local residents. The IHA update, verifying that they're actually going to build in town was quite reassuring. It was good to hear. The Fire Smart meeting on the 17th, there was some discussion about debris pickup, and one of the workers from forestry said that he would see if he could get permission, and if that may be organized in the near future, a one-day pickup for yard debris. There'll be more information coming forward. Yesterday, I talked with 3 of the Red Cross coordinators in our region about a course they've offered, which is psychological first aid. They're looking at availability of trainers, and when we have a specific date, we'll post that on the village website so people that are interested can apply. We've got probably 12 people lined up at this point, but she said that she could do up to 30. And it consists of 90-minute online and a one-day in class. So I think when I was up at NDIT a while ago, some of the people from Cache Creek spoke highly of that course, and there's a certificate upon completion. So if anyone's interested, stay tuned to the website, and we'll let you know when it's scheduled. And as everyone else said, kudos to the staff, our dedicated staff that makes Thank you. It could be tiring, but it is energizing to see construction happening in the community.
Thank you. Okay, we are going to move into closed meeting. But first we do need a motion. Now, the motion is very lengthy here, so I would like to request that someone make the motion as recommended. Councillor Lightfoot,
Do you want me to read it? Okay.
so, and seconder,
I'll second.
thank you, and all those in favor. Great, and carried. So thank you everyone for attending tonight's meeting. We are now going to be moving into closed meeting. I'm going to turn it back over to CEO Storchenko.
Thank you, Your Worship. So that concludes the public portion of our council meeting this evening. We ask that members of the public as well as staff, please remove yourself from the meeting. We'll take a quick break to reset for closed. Good night, everyone.